We've got another long, hot, muggy day in Toronto, but there is an end in sight and a warning that heavy rain is on the way. Good afternoon. A heat warning is still in effect. The temperatures will top 30 degrees again today. And
there's also a special weather statement on the torrential rain expected overnight and into tomorrow. CTV's Mike Walker is out in the elements talking to people trying to cope with the heat. How is it this hour, Mike?
Well, it's not too bad, Michelle and Nathan. It's a little humid. We're live at Oriole Park in Midtown, where you can see there is plenty of shade, and that's where we're finding people seeking some refuge from this heat and humidity. And really, this is the calm before the storm. Many people we've been speaking with who work outdoors are not trying to exert themselves, while others are embracing the conditions before we have some soggy days ahead of us on the horizon. Now, for the second straight day, it's stifling hot across the GTA. Many people were out this morning trying to get their exercise in or take the kids to the splash pad before it gets too hot and humid. Temperatures expected to reach as high as 38 degrees with the humidex today. This is the second heat warning issued for the region in less than a month, but conditions are expected to dramatically shift with the remnants of Hurricane Beryl expected to roll across southern Ontario, bringing intense rain, prompting Environment Canada to issue a special weather statement on top of the heat warning. Here's more from people trying to keep cool, but also bracing for that intense rainfall.
I know a lot of people hate, especially the humidity, but I don't mind it. I love it. I'd rather be by a lake for sure, but you know, if you can find some shade, some forested area like the beautiful Beltline, then you're good to go.
Covering up as much as we can. We got the dry fit sleeves, and some guys have the hats that cover their neck, and just a lot of water. And covering up, staying in the shade as much as you can.
The rain will be welcome because all the plants could probably really use it. You don't have to basically water your plants for a couple of days. Yeah, we need to cool down a little. It's all good.
It sort of stops the outdoor activity, which is a problem because, as you know, you may know, when you have kids inside in the summer, it's not a great combination, but we're going to have to deal with it.
And bring probably some intense at times, but maybe a total of 50 millimeters or more, which certainly would be more than a month's worth of rain in one day. And that's something we don't need. We have had lots of rain, so we don't need any more.
Now, to put that in perspective, since June 1st, we've seen just over 116 millimeters of rain in the Toronto area. Forecasters with Environment Canada say we can expect that heavy rain to begin either late tonight or early tomorrow. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. And here's another live look outside on this Tuesday afternoon. Mike mentioned it's another hot, humid, and hazy day. There's also that heat warning today. Watches as well. There's a lot of rain on the way. Remnants of Hurricane Beryl. So how much can we expect? Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Lots happening, Jessica.
Yes, it feels very soupy when you walk outside. It is hot. And if you have that kind of light headache going on, if you're sensitive in that way, there's a reason. That's because all that rain is coming and we'll see such a drastic change in temperature. We are blanketed by that special weather statement for all of that rain. We're looking at 20 to 40 millimeters. Some areas could see upwards of 50 because it comes in late tonight. It carries us throughout the day tomorrow, but the heaviest really is from about 3 a.m. through to about 10 a.m. So that is a long window, and that is a lot of rain. The heat warning we have right now in and around the Golden Horseshoe, that will drop because we are no longer in heat warning criteria, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to cool down for a long period of time. It's just when this rain comes through with a cold front, it is going to drop our temperatures to just shy of seasonal, around 22, 23 degrees into the day tomorrow. We're dry for now, mostly cloudy, but still a very high UV index. So for all those workers outside, they had the right idea with covering up your arms, wearing the right kind of gear to be outside and do it safely. We're looking at the beginnings of now post-tropical depression Beryl making its way in. It'll start in that southwestern corner, but really moves in as we head through the overnight. Temperature-wise, it's muggy out there. We're only into the mid-20s, but you factor in that humidex and it will feel into the 30s. So for us, our base temperature today around 30 degrees, it will feel closer to 38. So it is dangerous when it gets this hot. Check on those vulnerable people in your life. And if you do work outside, the hat with the neck cover, a great idea. Sun protection, hydration, all those tools we definitely need to be able to get out and enjoy the weather safely. But again, keeping a really close eye on that rain, making its way in. The beginning of this really is as we kind of get past about 9 or 10 p.m. tonight, then it really starts to intensify into the early morning hours tomorrow. So this is your heads up now to give yourself that extra time because localized flooding Urban flooding definitely possible. I'll have more on your forecast. We'll break down how Beryl is going to impact us throughout the day today and into the day tomorrow. But right now, I'll send things back over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. And we take you now to Mississauga and some new developments in a strike by LCBO workers.
Pickets are delaying delivery trucks this hour. CTV's John Musselman joins us now live from the GTA Licensee Service Center on Stanfield Road. John.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, this is basically a large warehouse where a lot of the alcohol is shipped out. In behind, you can see the pickets are here. They're holding trucks up to between 20 and 30 minutes as part of the protest here to get their message across. We are now on day 5 of the strike, and morale on the picket line appears to be good. Music and some creative costumes adding to the atmosphere.
We're definitely in it for the long haul. Right now, it feels like Mr. Ford is trying to emphasize that we are not necessary to the people of Ontario.
More than 9,000 workers are off the job. The picket lines are targeting LCBO warehouses across the GTA, slowing delivery trucks from entering or leaving up to 30 minutes at a time.
It's very frustrating. We're all frustrated. We'd all rather definitely be back in our stores working, knowing that how this is going to impact everybody is very troubling.
The challenge, I think, over time will be how will the bars and restaurants continue to be supplied? Is that going to be an issue? Because a big part of that map is you can go to any bar and say, hey, give me a 6-pack of beer. Give me a bottle of wine. I'll take it home with you. That's for a heck of a lot more money than you would pay at the LCBO. But it's true for now, so we'll see how long this thing lasts. My guess, it's going to be a long strike.
OPSEU, the union representing LCBO workers, says the prime point of contention is the province's expansion of alcohol sales into more retail locations like convenience stores and what that would mean in potential job losses.
Even though LCBO workers are on strike.
Meanwhile, Premier Doug Ford appeared in a video released yesterday boasting that there are 2,300 other places people can search to buy beer, wine, and spirits during the strike.
And remember, in just a few months, convenience stores and grocery stores across the province will be able to sell a whole range of drinks.
The government also contends it offered wage increases and more full-time positions that the union rejected. Still, the province has been forced to change direction on one issue because of this labor disruption. It has now scrapped a plan to temporarily reopen 5 stores to allow bars and restaurants to buy alcohol while the strike is ongoing. Quote, in light of OPSEU threats to picket these locations, we have made the decision to offer an alternative online experience for smaller orders. Details will be shared directly with our licensees. And that appears to be the key strategy of the union, is to picket these warehouses. They've got pickets on all sides of this building holding up the trucks. One other thing we can mention is that Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie will be joining the president of OPSEU, JP Hornick, at 4:30 this afternoon at a picket line in downtown Toronto. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. One person is recovering in hospital following an accident on the Gardiner Expressway last night.
It happened around 9:45 near Spadina. The crash caused one of the vehicles to flip over. An adult suffered serious injuries, but they're not life-threatening. The westbound Gardiner was closed at Spadina, but has since reopened. There's no word on what might have caused the crash.
Members of France's left-wing bloc, who came out on top in the country's election, made their way to the National Assembly today. The bloc won the most seats in Parliament, but fell short of obtaining a majority, plunging France into political uncertainty with no clear path to a stable government. President Emmanuel Macron's centrist party finished second in the vote ahead of the far-right National Rally. Joining us now from France is Hin Zian, the CEO at Génération Politique. It's an organization aimed at mobilizing young people in political campaigns. Hin, great to have you on. Your world is politics. I'd first like to know your thoughts on this outcome and really help us put it in perspective. What does it mean?
Thank you so much, Michelle. Well, it is a big surprise. Nobody expected it. If you ask any pollsters, any strategists, nobody expected it. It is a surprise because everybody thought it would, like the national rally of Marine Le Pen would get an absolute majority, which is 289 seats. It did not happen. And now we see that the front, the left front, which sometimes people call the far left front, is ahead. It is a big surprise. It brings a lot of instability, and a lot of people are wondering today, what's next? what is going to happen at the heart of power in France, which is the National Assembly, our lower chamber. We're not so sure about what will be happening in the next days.
That is the big question. And it's such an interesting time. We're, 2.5 weeks, 17 days out from the Paris Olympic Games. The world will be watching France, and now you have this added layer of political instability. Do you have any insights? What do you think could happen? What could come from this?
The Olympics have been, the kind of topic that everybody talks about and everybody's worried about, and it's been going on for years now. I remember having conversations in 2021, 2022 with people who were a little bit worried, because we've had before some instances of maybe hardly or dealing with safety with difficulty. So I believe that a lot of people today are wondering, now that we have a lot of political instability, now that we have maybe a lower chamber that's not going to have an easy majority in the next couple of weeks, how are we going to be able to show to the world our best image and our best self? But I believe that despite all of that, it's been in the works for a long time, and we expect it to go well, although we are a little bit afraid of, some issues or some incidents.
I know you talk a lot with youth and specifically about democracy. What is their reaction? How are French people reacting? I know we were seeing images out of France when the results are coming in. People were in tears in some cases. What is the mood there?
The mood is a bit strange because, a lot of people are happy that the national rally wasn't elected. But you have to remember that in the second round, because we have 2 rounds, the national rally got the biggest number of votes. So they got 10.5, 10.1.2 million votes. It means they had more votes than the left party, than the left coalition. So what this means basically is that France is split in 2, where half of the people, or maybe more than half, because they got the seats, want to sort of prevent the national rally to come to power, but the other half that is expecting something different, that is doesn't agree with the way things are being done and have been done in the past couple of years. So it's hard to say that there's a very certain or very clear mood here. It's just that some people are happy, some people are a little bit upset, and there's also this democratic feel, especially for those who voted for the national rally, that they haven't been heard. So everybody's worried about 2027 because, it's going to be our next big election, the presidential election. Wouldn't this frustration of those people who got the most votes but still didn't get the most seats in Parliament be turned into something that is much more dangerous and much more important in the next couple of years?
Well, these sure are interesting times. Hinzienne of Génération Politique, live from France for us today. Thank you so much for taking the time to put all this in perspective. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
The Prime Minister is meeting with a group of U.S. senators today as the NATO summit gets underway in Washington. Justin Trudeau is expected to face questions about Canada not yet meeting the agreed-upon threshold of spending $2 billion, make that 2% GDP on defense. Defense Minister Bill Blair was asked about that.
It's not just a matter of how much you spend. It's a matter of spending it well and making sure that you can produce real value for our armed forces, for our NATO alliance and all of our partners, but also for our taxpayers. And I need to be able to demonstrate, I think I've got a very clear path. I know exactly what I need to invest in. I've got to replace my destroyers, my naval ships. I've got to replace our submarines. I've signed contracts for almost 200 new aircraft for my Air Force just in the past year and a half. But I've got to make sure that we can actually deliver on those commitments and create that credibly.
At the summit, Trudeau is expected to stress the need to continue support for Ukraine. He'll also deliver the keynote address today at the NATO Climate Change and Security Center of Excellence. And the Ukrainian president has arrived in Washington for the 3-day summit. Volodymyr Zelensky seeking to win commitments from allies to beef up his country's air defenses and boost their military support. Ukraine ultimately wants to join NATO. U.S. officials have said the summit will offer Ukraine a bridge to membership. It would include a new NATO effort to coordinate arms supplies and training. And CTV's Judy Trin is at the NATO summit and joins us now live with more. You being there, what are you hearing as for where things are headed?
Nathan, I'm just in front of the Holodomor Memorial where President Zelensky paid a surprise visit to about 100 supporters of the Ukrainian community here. And one of the things that he said was that he was grateful for NATO support. He was grateful for the support of members and of the military backing of the Americans. But what we kept on hearing at this memorial was from the Ukrainian community was that they need more. What they want in that language in regards to a bridge for Ukraine to membership to NATO, they understand that it can't happen while Ukraine is at war. But what they're looking for is strong, irreversible language, and it's unclear at this point whether or not we will get that. But this is what they're seeking. They are actually seeking not just words, but an invitation for talks to start. So once talks to start, it's a symbolic move. It's a physical move in which it looks like, yes, Ukraine is headed into NATO membership, and that will actually deter Vladimir Putin, who believes right now that there are weak links within the NATO membership in terms of its support for Ukraine's war against Russia, and which is true. Nathan, we've seen in the recent French elections a rise of far-right parties who do not support NATO, who do not support the ongoing war against Ukraine, and would like to see peace made with Russia.
And what about Canada's commitment to NATO? Do you see that actually happening?
Well, Bill Blair, Minister of Defense, said that in the next few days, he is looking forward to presenting a verifiable plan of getting to 2% to share with allies. So he said that in a panel in front of a global audience yesterday. So we will wait. He said Canada is well aware that of its commitments and it wants to commit, but it's been saying this since 2006. Successive governments, liberal and conservative, have promised to get to 2% since nearly 2 decades ago, but have not made it. So will that result in action? And Nathan, a very interesting wrinkle. What National Defense has presented is a plan by 2030 to spend 1.76% of GDP on national defense. So that's by 2030, which is still off the mark. And just yesterday, the parliamentary budget officer basically came out with its own calculations and says that it's off the mark, that those numbers don't jive according to its calculations, and that by 2030, it thinks that Canada can realistically only get to 1.5% of GDP. Regardless, it's billions and billions of dollars that will be a hard sell for this Canadian government to the public, Nathan, because we are hearing about the low popularity of Prime Minister Trudeau. And what is it based on? Cost of living issues. The cost of living is too high, not enough housing, not enough support. Food costs are going up. So with all those other pressures, can there be a commitment for tens of billions of more dollars for defense?
That's the question. CTV's Judy Trin at the NATO summit in Washington. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have you received a notice from Ticketmaster on a data breach? Well, if so, you're not alone. Ticketmaster has told customers the stolen data may have included your name, basic contact information, and payment card information, such as encrypted credit or debit card numbers and expiration dates. It says the unauthorized activity occurred between April 2nd of this year and May 18th. And they have not seen any additional unauthorized activity. Technology specialist Carmi Levy says this is significant.
This is as bad as it gets. This personal information can then be used by cyber criminals in future identity theft and financial attacks. And if you are a Ticketmaster customer, if you have bought a ticket, then you've got to keep your eyes out for in the days, months, weeks, and beyond.
Levy says Ticketmaster has not indicated how many accounts have been compromised, but in a previous cyber attack, about 560 million accounts were compromised.
Now to the excitement building with Canada facing Argentina at Copa America soccer.
And the next generation of players, like many in Canada, are looking forward to tonight's match. CTV's Scott Hurst joins us now with more on Canada facing Argentina. Scott, how is Canada approaching this game?
Well, it's already been a history-making tournament to this point for Canada, and they're trying to keep it going against Argentina in a semi-final matchup. Canada, as we've been talking about, had never even been to the Copa America tournament, and here they are one step away from the final. But of course, Argentina is a formidable foe, the #1 team in the world with the best player on the planet as well. But hearing the players and hearing the coaching staff talk about this game, this is a program, this men's team is in a situation where they're not just happy to be there. This is what they're projecting to the media and projecting to the other teams in this tournament, and that they are starting to turn heads at the international stage. Of course, to compete with consistently with a team like Argentina, it might be a tall order for Canada, who's currently ranked 48th, but the players say, and the coaching staff is saying, they're game planning to win here. They don't want to sit back and just kind of wait. Hopefully they can maybe be tied and take it to penalty kicks, and then you never know what happens at that point. They're game planning to maybe find some space and get a few breaks and get a goal or two on Argentina and really put the pressure on the #1 team in the world. And let's listen to Kyle Larin explain how the team is preparing for this and how they feel going into this match.
We've grown over the few games we played, France, Netherlands, Argentina, and we know what to expect playing against those players. And Alfonso obviously played in really big games. I have too, and each game is an away game for us, from Chile game, Peru, and Venezuela, and we're getting used to it, and we embrace that.
So you heard him talk about some of the other opponents they've gone up against, and in some friendlies before the Copa America, they scheduled some really tough competition, and this is all by design to get this team ready to be able to compete consistently with some of the top teams in the world. Before the Copa America tournament, they went up against #2 France in a friendly, #7 Netherlands in a friendly, and of course they've already played #1 Argentina, and they're going to do it again tonight. And they look to take down Argentina. It might be a David and Goliath matchup, but Canada is game planning for that. They're not planning to sit back and just see what happens against the best team in the world. They want to take it to the best team in the world and see if they can continue to execute against the best team in the world.
Well, it's all so exciting. Can't wait to see how this goes. CTV's Scott Hurst live for us in the CTV National Newsroom. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Michelle.
A family living in Toronto after immigrating from Jamaica has been granted a reprieve from deportation. Members of the Lindo family have been issued a 1-year temporary residential permit, as well as work and study permits. The Lindos fled to Canada in 2019, seeking asylum to escape violence at home. The father is a political opposition member and survived 3 assassination attempts. But advocates say their refugee claim was denied due to lack of legal representation. The son, Tamari Lindo, is one of Canada's top-ranked hurdlers. One of his younger sisters was born in this country. The family says the journey toward permanent residency continues.
Canada's own Justin Bieber is the latest pop star to perform at the pre-wedding festivities for the son of India's richest man. Bieber flew to Mumbai to sing for Anand Ambani and his fiancée, who are set to tie the knot this weekend. He is just the latest in a string of international stars to take the stage at one of the couple's pre-wedding parties, following Rihanna, Katy Perry, and the Backstreet Boys. Bieber was reportedly paid $10 million US for the gig.
It's not bad right now. We are holding on to a ton of heat and humidity, but the storm is on the horizon quite literally as we wrap up our Tuesday and step in towards Wednesday. Temperature-wise, we're still kind of in that mid to upper 20 range right now. It feels into the 30s, and it only gets hotter as we head into the second half of our day. So maybe for heading out to the beach this afternoon, going for a walk, hydration and sun protection are going to be key, as it's going to be around 30, feeling like 38, with the chance of some pop-up showers increasing later in the day. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including breaking down how Beryl is going to impact us here in southern Ontario, what you can expect as far as the amount of rain and when it makes its way out. All that after the break.
All right, let's talk about that forecast. And there's lots in there, the heat and also all this rain that's on the way.
I mean, it's not a prolonged heat event because we're flipping the switch here, and now it's going to be a little bit on the cooler side. And then, yeah, there is concern about just how much rain in this period of time. And you know those folks who maybe sometimes their basements flood when it gets really wet. They're all bracing themselves, I'm sure.
And Dave Phillips mentioned it earlier in the show that we've already seen a ton of rain. We don't really need this much more, but we're getting this heavy downpour. So localized flooding is possible. If you drive anywhere where you know that flooding tends to happen on those roads, just expect that tomorrow and give yourself extra time, because this is going to be one of those systems that dumps a significant amount of rain over a long period of time. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers you don't pay unless they win. Now, it's not been a terrible start to the day, albeit a mostly cloudy one, but we still have a really high UV index. The sun's rays are really, really strong today. So even though it's not that brilliant blue sky out there, we are still having to protect ourselves the exact same way. We are going to see all this heat, all this humidity dissipate as the system comes in, but as it does, it drops us almost 10 degrees as we head in towards the day tomorrow. For now, it's still obviously super hot out there, 27, feeling like 34. It's really the same across central and southern Ontario. This system really starts to amp up as we head in towards the evening. So we'll see it start to trickle into southwestern Ontario first, and then it makes its way across. The chance of a pop-up shower thanks to another system in northern Ontario is there today, but the heavy rain doesn't really happen until this evening. We'll see a daytime high right around 30. It'll feel like 38, and everyone around the Golden Horseshoe still in that heat warning criteria. Into this evening, we are closer to seasonal, but this is as the rain comes in. It will start to drop our temperatures down. So we were feeling like 27 with the humidex last night. It'll be a little more manageable this evening as we sit at 19, and we should be at about 17. There's the beginning of Beryl. There's the other system that's set to bring the chance of a few showers. But as this pushes its way up, we will see it start to migrate its way in towards the GTA this evening and into the day tomorrow. It doesn't fully make its way out of southern Ontario until we get in towards Thursday morning. So this is going to be a prolonged rain event, and it's post-tropical Beryl now. So we've lost a lot of that steam, that energy that it gets from the warm ocean waters, and it doesn't make it any less intense as far as the amount of rain goes. There's that low that made its way out of northern Ontario, now into parts of northern Quebec that we have the chance of rain today, but the better likelihood of everything that's coming is tonight and into the day tomorrow. So let's time everything out. For now, it's just a little bit of cloud cover as we head through our day. We could even see a little late afternoon sunshine, but as we head in towards about 8 p.m., we'll start to see the system push its way into southern Ontario in the way of lighter rain and towards Windsor and London. As we get in towards about 1 a.m. is when the bulk of Beryl will start to push its way in towards that morning commute. So really anytime after 6 a.m., it starts to get really heavy. We have rain, we have thunderstorms. It is going to be intense for that drive into work, so give yourself extra time. If you take transit, give yourself extra time. We are going to see this continue right through the morning rush and in towards about the lunch hour. You do get a little bit of a break in towards kind of like 12 to about 7 o'clock. It doesn't mean we're done with the rain, but it just becomes very spotty in nature, but it will be significantly cooler. We're watching for another round of heavy rain in towards Owen Sound as we head in towards our Wednesday evening. And then as we step in towards kind of the end of the day Wednesday, stepping into Thursday, another round of heavier showers. And then by Thursday morning, it will start to push its way out. And then we see some sunshine. So this is, again, it's an intense system. You have to take this very seriously. Ponding and pooling on the roads, very likely to happen. Localized flooding, very likely to happen. As we head in towards the day today, again, it's hot, it's humid. We have all that heat building up. As Beryl comes in and it kind of makes its way along a cold front, we see that sharp cool down, and the risk of that thunderstorm activity is right in the middle of that. And we drop down to just 23 as we head in towards our Wednesday. Evening temperatures kind of hold on around the seasonal mark. We see the remnants of it kind of moving out on Thursday, and then by Friday, Saturday, it's like it never happened, and we see the sunshine return as we step in towards the bulk of our weekend. I'll send things back over to Nathan and Michelle.
Drake is hoping Canada continue its winning ways at Copa America, betting on the hometown team to come out on top in tonight's semifinal. Drake put down, get this, $300,000 on Canada to beat Argentina tonight. In a screenshot on his Instagram, Drake showed off his bet with a caption that reads, "This could get messy." And there's a lot at stake tonight, not just for Drake. With a closer look at what to expect on the pitch, let's go to TSN soccer reporter Matthew Shinetti. All right, tonight's the night, Matthew. How's this team doing physically and mentally?
Well, the one thing I will tell you, Nathan, is I have been in regular contact with the players this past month when they were in Rotterdam, through France, and all the way to MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. And I've had a pretty regular contact with the players, and they have gone radio silent. And that makes sense because as much as Jesse Marsh, the head coach, doesn't want to play into it, this is history. Now, this is only Marsh's 7th match in charge of the Canadian men's national team. 2 months he's been the head coach. And here they are in what has been the craziest month the men have ever had. But tonight is different because so many obscure parts of the world will be watching the Canadian men's national team for the first time tonight. The one question I keep getting asked is, are they going to sit back? If you're watching the men's national team for the first time tonight, they're not going to sit back. This is the best team in the world, the Argentines are. It's the second time Canada will be facing them in 2.5 weeks. Canada did not sit back a couple of weeks ago in the Copa America opener. They won't sit back tonight regardless of what Argentina throws at them.
Do you think Canada is playing better soccer now than when the tournament first began?
Absolutely. I mean, it just, when you see buy-in, now Jesse Marsh has come in with a particular kind of message and a particular kind of demands. This is a coach who has experience in Europe, in the Champions League, which is the top soccer competition in club soccer. And he's come in with a list of expectations, and the players have met them over and over and over again. That game against Venezuela, that penalty shootout, really showed how far they have grown emotionally. And there will be over 80,000 Argentine fans. They're expecting over 500 fans, at least for now, Canadians I know are going to be here. But this game matters to Argentina because they have won this competition more than any other nation in South America. So as much as you might look at something like this in a different kind of context, not necessarily as an exhibition, that is not what tonight is. This is a semifinal of the world's oldest continental competition, and Canada is in it facing Argentina. I mean, a headline like that, no one could have expected.
And how physical might this game be? It just seems like watching these games, Matthew, anything goes.
Now, the one thing about CONMEBOL and South American soccer, Nathan, is that is what it is. That is the vibe of this conference. And Canada has come in and pushed as much as they've been pushed. And it started with Lionel Messi after that game in Atlanta saying how physical Canada was, and that carried over to the Peru game, the Chile game. Venezuela couldn't stop talking about it. And yet Canada has not backed down. That is not only the way that they try to physically impose themselves on the game, but it's how they want to be known in terms of reputation, that even though they're going to have the fans against them, even though there's going to be so many things that might happen. And remember back to that Argentina game, they might have had 2 opportunities to have a penalty shot, and they didn't get the calls from the refs. So there's so much theater in South American soccer. Canada has added that kind of we're here kind of aggression, and Argentina in that first game took notice.
All right, TSN's Matthew Shinetti in New Jersey on the big game tonight. Thank you. Take care.
Appreciate it, my friend.
From Copa America to the upcoming Olympics, and Canada's most decorated Olympian, Penny Oleksiak, is hoping to earn more hardware in the pool this summer.
CTV's Andrea Case has more on her preparation for the Games in Paris.
Pick a color from bronze to gold. Penny Oleksiak has more Summer Olympic Games medals than any other Canadian in our nation's history. The Olympic medal rush began in Rio in 2016. The then 16-year-old racked up medals individually and as a relay team member in freestyle and butterfly. In Paris later this month, her focus will solely be as a relay team member.
Honestly, just excited to go and really enjoy it for the first time. I think every time I'm like totally overcome by nerves while I'm there. So this time to be able to go and just really enjoy it, have a good time, and see what we can do.
Speaking from Barcelona, where she and fellow team members are training, she appeared on Your Morning, and minutes later wearing a hat on CP24 Breakfast. She spoke about being a 3-time Olympian.
Honestly, I feel like I'm still learning all the time. I think every Olympics is so different from each other. My first one, I had no idea what I was doing. My second one was in Tokyo and during COVID, and excited to go. And it's going to be so different from the other 2 I've been to.
With experience and age, competing on any level is more fun for her now. In addition to the Olympic medals, she's also a 6-time World Championship medalist.
I've only really started to kind of give myself grace and celebrate things I've accomplished in the past, but I'm excited to hopefully add to that this summer. I mean, we have a really, really awesome team.
Like many of her team members, she now trains in California. 6 months after knee surgery, she's feeling good. And should all go well in Paris, she knows where her next stop will be.
I want to make a trip home. I miss Toronto.
Oleksiak said she couldn't have made it to the Olympics without help from people like the Ontario Lottery Corporation and tickets like Quest for Gold. All the proceeds from tickets like this go to help making Olympic dreams come true. That'll be $2. Thank you. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Shares in Maple Leaf Foods rose in morning trading after the meat giant announced plans to spin off its pork production operations.
As Lululemon shares are on a downward trend, Andrew Bellabian in Bloomberg brings us the latest in business.
Hello there. Here are your business headlines. Maple Leaf Foods, the meat giant, plans to spin its pork production operations into a separate publicly traded company. It will go on owning about 20% of that new entity. The pork business processes about 4 million hogs every year. The idea here is to reduce the exposure of the original company, Maple Leaf Foods, to volatile commodity markets. Shares in Lululemon are still out of favor with investors, declining more than 40% this year. One worry is a consumer shift to baggier clothing, and that is seen as a threat to athletic wear makers. Deutsche Bank warned last month that Lululemon faces higher marketing expenses but is not able to hike prices. Finally, U.S. stocks push further into record high territory. The head of the U.S. Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, said there are signs that inflation is being brought under control, but it's not yet time for interest rate cuts. Toronto stocks slipped about 0.5%, dragged down by technology shares. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The charges against billionaire Frank Stronach have prompted an American woman to come forward with her own account of an encounter with the billionaire almost 40 years ago.
The woman is not one of the complainants. CTV's John Woodward has her story.
I was a teenager, a high school student that was selected by Magna International.
In 1985, Jane Boone was 19. She was picked for a major scholarship that kick-started her engineering career. The benefactor, then CEO of Magna International, Frank Stronach, who was in his 50s.
I was game and so flattered by the attention. And then things got weird.
She told CTV News she was invited to Magna's annual shareholder meeting at Roy Thompson Hall and then to dinner at Stronach's Toronto restaurant.
Stronach announces to the driver that I have had too much to drink, that I'm in no condition to go back to Guelph, and that he will drive me to the guest house.
She said she surrendered her keys, and on the way to the guest house in Gormley, she felt pressure to give Stronach what she believed he wanted. Boone described what happened that night as unwelcome but not illegal. But other alleged sexual interactions involving Stronach, now 91, have resulted in criminal charges, including sexual assault. Stronach did not show up in person at his first court appearance in Brampton. His lawyer appeared virtually instead. The charges describe incidents from the late 1970s to February of this year. There are 10 alleged victims across 13 counts, 7 in Toronto, 1 each in Scarborough, Central York, and Gormley, and 2 in Aurora, the city where Magna is headquartered. The company has said it has no knowledge of any of these allegations, and Stronach himself said in a statement, in many free and democratic societies, the identities of both the accuser and the accused are protected while the police initiate a charge against a citizen. This is not the case in Canada. Frank Stronach, like all Canadians, values the time-honored legal principle that a person is innocent until proven guilty. However, unlike most Canadians, he faces the reputational damage which constant media attention attracts. Although gratified by the many expressions of support he has received, we ask that the public respect the fundamental precept that Mr. Stronach remains innocent of any wrongdoing and that he will respond to the allegations in a fair and public court of law. The statement didn't directly address Boone's story. Boone said as soon as she heard of the charges, she phoned the Peel police and was interviewed. She said she has a lot of questions about what other Magna employees knew. John Woodward, CTV News.
A suspect has been identified in a daytime shooting in Leslieville over the weekend.
It happened in a building across from a busy park on Sunday afternoon and coincidentally on the anniversary of the death of a mother of 2 struck by a stray bullet 1 year ago. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports.
With jazz music playing and a festival in Jimmy Simpson Park, few knew just after 3 in the afternoon a man had been shot, suffering life-threatening injuries in the building across the street. The gun violence erupting 1 year to the day, Caroline Hubner-Macarat, an innocent bystander to another shooting, was killed a few blocks away.
It's unfathomable to think. I just don't really know what's going through people's minds.
Toronto police say the 24-year-old suspect Sunday is wanted for attempted murder and took off on an e-bike. As yellow tape went up and investigators descended to Queen Street East, the ribbons from the large park memorial that took place for the 44-year-old mother of 2 are still on the fence.
It's hard because I love Leslieville. It's been the only community that I've been living in Toronto. But at the same time, like it's scary because you don't know what's going to happen next. And
it's a revolving door. As soon as the police disappear, it's like morning, noon, and night, morning, noon, and night. Drug dealers.
Sean Denny has lived in the building for a decade. He says many are dealing with addictions, but that security doesn't do enough to keep out unwanted visitors, with some dealers buzzing multiple units until they're let in.
When the police are here, it doesn't matter if they're in the park, across the street, or inside the building shuts down. There's nobody that comes around.
Woodgreen, which has been operating the building since the 1980s, says this is the first incident of its kind and houses people who have experienced homelessness. It says since the shooting, security is being increased around the clock. Both the victim and the suspect are not tenants. In a statement writing, the safety and well-being of our clients and community remains a top priority. And in the aftermath of the event, we are focused on ensuring all tenants are feeling safe and supported in their homes. Security has been and will continue to be on site. The neighborhood shooting rate here remains low. Police didn't tell CTV News if officers check on this building often or if it's known as a problem spot for drugs. They say they recently completed a project in the South Riverdale and Danforth areas, making over 70 arrests, more than 1/3 of them for drug offenses and seizing drugs. Some argue an even wider effort is needed to stop shootings.
Clearly, they are not, licensed gun owners who do these things, so that's the biggest issue in my opinion. I mean, the timing is obviously insane, but clearly there needs to be a little more extra presence or help.
With public safety on the line, Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
A group of Toronto citizens were making noise at City Hall.
They're calling on the Board of Health to do more about the problem of noise pollution. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has the story.
This is just one of the kinds of noises that Ingrid Boudet is concerned about. As the founder of a group called No More Noise Toronto, she records and documents various sources of noise pollution.
Noise has mostly been studied in the work environment, so you see people with ear protection. We don't have that as public. We don't have that when we walk down our streets. So we need to look at noise, not in the workplace, but on the public spaces.
She was at the Board of Health making sure her message was heard loud and clear.
We're a grassroots organization of over 1,300 individuals.
Some 16 people spoke at the Board of Health meeting, and Dr. Davila acknowledged that noise pollution is a complex problem.
311 tells us to phone the police tell us to phone 311. And there's no resolution.
We know it impacts our heart, it impacts our adrenaline system, it increases stress. And that's just the physical manifestations, never mind increasing depression and anxiety.
Boudet acknowledges that response to loud sounds is very individual, and the city already has bylaws in place for some noise regulation.
We know that health impacts start at 55 decibels.
But cars, construction, and other sources can reach double those levels or more.
Maybe have a noise commission or an office of noise where we can kind of look at combining and weaving together Toronto Police, municipal bylaws and standards, and Customer Experience Division, which is 311.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Novak Djokovic is playing great tennis at Wimbledon.
But the 7-time champion is getting some extra attention for an incident during his most recent match.
To all those people that have chosen to disrespect the player, in this case me, have a good night.
Djokovic took some issue with some fans following his match last night. He was certain that some in the crowd were drawing out the pronunciation of his opponent's last name to sound like they were booing. And Djokovic objected to the disrespect he thought was being directed his way. The 24-time Grand Slam winner will be back in action tomorrow against Australia's Alex de Minaur.
Heated. I know. It's interesting. It's kind of fun. Let's talk about the weather because there's a lot we need to know in the hours ahead. First the heat, then the rain.
So much heat and so much rain. We are watching for this kind of two-day heat event to end as we head in towards the end of the day today, and then kicking things off really as we head through the early evening. The leftovers of Beryl are going to make their way in. No, it's not the same intensity as what they saw in the Caribbean and what we saw through parts of the U.S., but it is still going to be a significant amount of rain. That's the yellow on this map. That's for the heavy rain, 40 to 50 mils possible. And we are still currently under that heat warning. But for now, we're keeping a close eye on Beryl as we head into the day tomorrow.
All right, got it. Thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here, have a wonderful afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Take care.